Welcome to another episode of the Pharma Founders Academy. I'm glad you can join me and my special guest today, who is a gem. Uh, and today we shall discuss how you can get a mindset shift for success. So this will be very relevant for pharma founders who face all sorts of hurdles and stumbles while you are starting up or growing your business. Hi, I'm James Perera, the founder of this channel as well as the Seven-Figure Pharma Accelerator Program. Now, my guest today applied or aspired to be a Hollywood actress. It didn't pan out, and she became an elementary school teacher. And after several years, she pivoted once again to today being an NLP and hypnotherapy practitioner. So I'm looking forward to maybe a mindset hack or a few from our discussion today with her. And with that, I would like to welcome Nikki Gangemi. Nikki,
Thank you,
welcome to the
James.
show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Nikki, tell us a little bit about your background and where you're from. I'm sure everybody would like to know where you're from.
Well, I live in New Jersey, so I'm US based. A little bit about my background. You shared some of it. I started out always wanting to act since I was a little girl. A lot of it was because I wanted to be anybody but myself. I always struggled with the negative thoughts in my head and just feeling really uncomfortable in my skin. So when I got to act, I got to pretend to be somebody else. And that felt so much better. So I got involved in theater throughout middle school and high school and into college. And then at 23, I decided I was going to take a shot at it. And I moved across the country from New Jersey to LA. And I gave myself 1 year to make it. And then I decided that I didn't have what it took. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. You know, that self-talk, all the things we tell ourselves. And I ended up coming back home. I was back on a plane, coming back to New Jersey, and then I didn't know what to do with myself. And then, you know, we have those well-meaning people in our lives, family and friends. They're like, oh, be a teacher. You come from a family of teachers. It's such a rewarding career. And so I ended up saying yes to what was really a no for me. And then I did that job for 15 years. I performed the role very well. Because anything I do it well. It's just a part of, you know, who I am. But it was an early midlife crisis at around the age of 40, where I said to myself, I've done all the right things. I followed the rules, did everything I was told to do, got the college degree, got the master's, got the job, went the certainty and stability route. But where's the rest of the package that I was told I was going to get? Where's my husband, kids, and white picket fence? So I decided I was going to take my life back, do things my way for the second act, the second half of my life. And so I ultimately decided to start again. I resigned from my teaching job and I started a coaching business, and I resigned in 2019. So it's been 6 years, and this, I finally feel, you know, I had that feeling like a square peg in a round hole kind of feeling. And now I feel like I belong and I'm around my people.
So I can sense, Nikki, the actress in you, because you used the word act. This is your second or third act, right? And, you know, Nikki, I've heard a lot of stories about people who want to make it big in Hollywood or Broadway, and they don't make it, and their hopes are dashed, and they have a sense of despair. You know, they lose their life and hope. And I see, and therefore I think you are the right person to speak to us about mindset, you know. And I see behind you the word believe. Is that related in any way to what you do?
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, I didn't, you know, some time ago, once upon a time, I did not believe in myself. I didn't believe that I had what it took to make it in Hollywood. as an example. So I have learned the power that belief plays in our lives. And it's almost like looking through uh, rose-colored glasses or gray-colored glasses as I was looking through, where things look dim and they're not going to work out for you. So it's very meaningful to what I do today. When you change your beliefs and you change the way you see yourself, life opens up for you.
And thanks, Nikki. I think that is the first hack of the day of this session. Believe in yourself. It starts there. And as you were telling your story, that's a very unique journey that you had, Nikki, because the family pressure, parental pressure, to do what generations of our family have done. And I understand that. I've been through that as well. So, from an aspiring actress to elementary school teacher, then founding Mindful Matters LLC at the age of 40. And true enough, everybody says, life starts at 40, so you're proven it as well. And, so, what motivated that pivotal shift? And how did it shape your coaching philosophy?
So the beginning of the shift was about 12 years in to my teaching career, and I ran into a coworker outside of a coffee shop in the parking lot. And we started chatting, and once again, I was complaining about how unhappy I was. And he said to me, Nikki, instead of complaining, why don't you just bloom where you're planted? And I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it was important. So I put it on the back burner. And then a few months later, I was in the online dating space, and I thought I found the man of my dreams. I found him on Plenty of Fish. But it turned out that he played the role of a reason in a very short season. And while we were dating during that brief time, he said to me, if there's something that you want to do, if you have a message, if you want to speak in your living room, just get started. You don't wait for opportunities to come to you. You pave the way. And when he said that bloom where you're planted came back up to the surface, and Mindful Matters was born. So how did I bloom where I was planted? My audience at the time was children. I was teaching second grade. So I spoke with the principal and asked to pilot this program. And I said, I'm going to teach kids how to manage their thoughts and their emotions. And they said yes. So that was the start of it. And I did it for about 10 months. And then it was shut down and I wasn't allowed to do the program anymore. So this time, instead of just accepting no, I thought, well, what else could this look like? Because I don't want to give up like I did many moons ago when I left LA. So that's when I kind of opened up some doors by opening up my mind, and I attracted a business coach. I learned about the life coaching industry. And she said, why don't you go from children to working with adults and go from local to global? And so that was in 2017 when I entered the online space, and I was doing teaching by day, trying to build the coaching business by night and weekends. And then 2 years in is when I made that decision to resign. And the big factor that made me make that leap of faith was that early midlife crisis. That's when I was turning 40. And I decided, if not now, when? Instead of waiting for all the ducks in a row. I was telling myself I've got to be responsible. I have to wait until I'm married so that there's another income. I can't just quit a job when I have a house to pay for. So it was a lot of mindset shifting and changing and questioning things that I believed that enabled me to take that leap of faith.
As you were speaking just now, Nikki, you mentioned this phrase, and I just wrote it down. You pave your path, or you pave the way.
Yeah.
And that reminded me that we create our own destiny. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this have heard of that. And you are the epitome of that phrase. And from the story you were just relating, looks like you have gone against the rule several times, and How has that uh, informed your work in helping clients pivot and transform?
It's so funny to hear you say that because I have always been such a rule follower. I still am. I have tried to shed that identity, but I notice that even to this day, I do follow the rules. How it impacts my work I do today and with the clients that I get to serve is questioning those rules. Ask instead of, like going back to when I said to myself, I don't have what it takes. I'll never make it. I'm not good enough. It's like,
Right.
well, who says? You know, um, is that a fact? Is it a hard fact or is it a belief, an opinion, an attitude? And then if it is, it's like, well, what's another interpretation? What else might be true? And that's where we open ourselves up to other opportunities.
And Nikki, I think sometimes the profession that we are in also dictates whether we are the person who goes against the rules or the person who follows the rules, the compliance thing. And I've seen that among my family members who are either pharmacists or teachers. So it's pretty common. I, being a salesperson, I've always been in sales since the time I graduated. It's always about bending and maybe even breaking the rules. We always try to see how far we can push the envelope. So I get it when you have what you have just mentioned. Now,
Yeah.
Nikki, something came to my mind earlier um, with regards to mindset. How is that related to this concept of positive thinking? Is there any relationship at all?
There is a relationship to it. And so there's the concept of positive thinking. And I like to quote the teachings of Abraham Hicks that it's not just about positive thinking. That would be like driving a car and you notice that the gas gauge is on empty and you put a happy face sticker over the E to cover it. And the car's not going to just keep running. So with mindset, at least for me, it goes a lot deeper, and it's more about where's my focus right now? What am I thinking that's causing me to feel this way? And then getting curious and asking if it's true, and if it isn't, well, what's another interpretation? What else can I believe? It's about dropping down from your head and into your body and noticing how do I feel right now? And am I anxious? Am I frustrated? Am I angry? And breathing through that. So it's not just about positive thinking, but it's about how can I align my thoughts and my focus with the outcomes that I'm looking to generate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think a lot of people have this misconception about positive thinking, and I think you have set our minds straight.
Yeah, because we don't have to always feel good, right? There are certain things, like for example, last week or the week before, I was flying to Atlanta for an NLP practitioner certification training. And on my way to the airport, I'm sitting at the light and the guy behind me just runs into me. So I'm in this little fender bender on my way to the airport. I still make it on time, thankfully. And then the flight is smooth and we land. And then somebody stood up to get her luggage out of about whatever that's called, where it holds the luggage. And it fell. The suitcase fell on my shoulder and banged my arm into the seat. And my first thought was, what's going on today? First, I get into a fender bender. Now this luggage falls on me. And then I took a breath and I said, what's the opportunity here? Maybe there's something that I need to see. And the universe is giving me these little light nudges. Let me pay attention and listen because I don't want to get a big whammy later on. So I didn't turn it into something positive, but per se, but I turned those experiences that day into what do I need to open up my eyes to? What's a lesson here that I can learn that's going to help me to move forward? So I wouldn't consider that positive per
You
se.
know, Nikki, this is remarkable. Everything you're saying now is what I'm reading in this book. And I'm, by the way, let me see, 60 years late or 65 years late, Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Marshall Maltz.
Yes.
Everything you just mentioned was what I read yesterday. I think it's chapter 8 or 9. So I'm halfway through the book now. So that book was published, about 2 years before I was born, or 3 years before I was born. So it's an old book, but I think every speaker on this topic, every expert on this topic, tends to go back to the concepts that he has mentioned. And
Yeah.
everything you say just resonates with me. It just kind of reminds me of what was written there. Ben,
I love it's a great book. I've read it.
I
Yeah.
definitely recommend everybody to read that because it doesn't tell you to deny what you're going through, but how to use it, embrace it, and turn it into your advantage, which is exactly what your experience on the way to Atlanta and after you landed, the bag falling on you. It could have been a bad day, but you turned it into something that you could use positively for yourself and whoever else that you met that day.
Yeah. I just want to add this because I think it's so funny. The morning before I left for the airport, I meditate every morning. And I chose this meditation, and the name of it was Manifest Your Perfect Day. And then I had the accident and the suitcase land on me, and it was still perfect. It was just an amazing, beautiful time out there. So everything just went really perfectly, even though it might not have seemed that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are not going to be speaking about this in today's discussion, but I think what you just mentioned is the concept about affirmations, gratitude and affirmations, that will help you as well. Right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your book, Nikki. You are the author of The Calm Method, which outlines a 4-step process. Can you walk us through, the content of the book in summary and how it helps people cut through the overwhelm that they're going through and start making confident decisions?
Sure. Thank you. So the calm method, it's really a framework for how to quiet down the mental noise in your mind. I was set to speak for a jewelry company, and it was March 2020. And so the woman who had hired me called me up and said, talking about money mindset is not appropriate. Please come up with something else. And it was 2 days before the workshop. So I was, well, what am I going to come up with? I said, you know what? I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to wake up in the morning with the just right idea. And I woke up seeing the word calm, CALM, and each letter stood for a step. So the C in calm is to become conscious of how you're feeling. The A in calm is to become aware of the self-talk, aware of the thoughts that you're telling yourself, and then putting them on trial and asking, are these facts or are these beliefs? The L is lean into what else is possible. And that's where you get to reframe those thoughts that are really not helping you. And then the M is make a new decision. So now that you feel better, you've quieted the mind, you're focused on what you want and the solutions, now what are you going to do about it? Make a decision and take action on it immediately while you're inspired before you talk yourself out of it, because that's common. I'm sure, you've experienced and I've experienced. We have this great idea, we feel really good, and then it's like, well, maybe I should wait. If some reason comes up. So that's, bird's eye view. That's the framework of calm.
And is this the framework that you use while you're coaching, professions? Why don't you tell us also who you coach, Nikki? That's something.
Sure. Yes. Thank you. So I work with high achieving professionals. They could be business owners, and they can be high achievers in healthcare, law, and finance. Those high pressure jobs where there's a lot riding, right? There's a lot on your plate. So these people tend to be overextended. They tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves and keep it all together, and a lot of overthinking. On paper, they look successful, and nobody would ever know. They keep a lot on the inside, and it can spill over into their work and also into their personal life, because they could take the pressures home with them and then have an argument with their spouse or, things like that. So those are the types of people that I work with. And those high achievers, and I'm one of them, so I can relate to this, we are very hard on ourselves. And so where calm comes in, it's helping you to identify some of that critical self-talk that you're saying to yourself. And how do you start to turn that around? How do you start to move from focusing on the problems and what's going wrong with, well, how can I take personal responsibility? What's in my circle of control? And then get into a better headspace. And then you have access to more ideas and solutions. And then you can take that aligned action.
Okay. And Nikki, from what you just said, the people that you work with, here is a hint for pharma founders. If you heard what Nikki said, she works with healthcare professionals, and most probably these are doctors.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into the mind of your potential clients, get hold of Nikki and ask her to reveal or dump all the secrets of what goes on in their mind. And that's how you make sales.
Exactly.
And talking about sales, Nikki and I met in a sales workshop. That's something that I want to also highlight. We never stop learning. I'm in my 60s, so I'm still learning. I'm not going to ask how old Nikki is, but she's still learning, even though she's in a third act.
That's right.
Yeah. So
well, if anybody could do basic math, they could figure out I resigned at 40 back in 2019.
Okay. Still young. Nikki, prior to this, we were discussing, and you told me you do EFT, or Emotional Freedom Technique. So for listeners new to this concept who have never heard of it, including people like me who are not very clear what EFT is, we may have heard about it, read it, but not very clear. So what makes it a powerful tool against procrastination and emotional clutter, which, tends to hold us back from moving forward?
Yes, EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, also known as tapping, is a very powerful tool for not only procrastination and emotional clutter, but you can use it if you have a headache, or you just are maybe confused about something and you don't know what's the right decision to make. It can help you to sleep better. There's just so many different ways you can use EFT. It's another tool that I like to teach my clients. I teach them the calm method. I teach them EFT or tapping to help people become more resourceful so that they can manage their own state and their own mind. How it helps is that it's basically like acupressure for your emotions. So for people who might be familiar with going for acupuncture to heal physical pain in the body, EFT can heal emotional pain. So it can help you to process emotions. If you've been angry or hurt or sad or feeling a lot of guilt, you can tap on the meridians of the body and you can help that emotion process. And that's how you start to feel better. It also helps you to change your thoughts. So maybe if you were focused on, something negative and unresourceful, it can help you to have better feeling thoughts because you've processed that emotion. So I use it every morning. I just tap on something different each day, and it just kind of resets. I feel like it resets my mind and my body.
From what you're saying, Nikki, this sounds like a DIY solution to, any emotional, and you had also mentioned headache. And now that, Tylenol has got a super warning on its pack, especially for pregnant women, I think this is something that they could use, for to relieve headache. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I say try it. You can't hurt yourself by tapping. There's no side effects except feeling good. So, you could try, not to say that this replaces a drug, but it's just something that, you could do for you. It also helps calm your nerves. Maybe you have to have a difficult conversation with somebody at work or even at home, and you just feel anxious. You can use tapping to help calm down that feeling and also to get clear on what's important for me to say here. What do I really want to communicate? And it just helps you to just get organized in your mind.
Without going too deeply into EFT techniques, Nikki, how long does it take? Let's say when you realize that you've got some clutter that you want to work through, how long would it take to go through or to do the tapping?
So it can vary. It could take anywhere from 2 minutes and it can take longer. What I tell people is to make it a practice. I have introduced this to clients. I teach it to every client because I feel like they literally have this tool at their fingertips. Some like it and they use it, and more don't resonate with it, so they don't use it. And then there'll come a time where I had somebody who would get nervous on airplanes. And so I said, use tapping. You're sitting there on the plane, even though I have this, these anxious feelings around flying, and it helped him. So then he was motivated to use it. So it's just something that it could work very quickly to help you to just kind of like flip a switch in your mind and start telling yourself a better story. And then for something that maybe is a little more complicated, it could take longer, and it's something that you just do a little bit every day. I think of it like showering. We don't just shower once and expect to stay clean and smelling fresh for years to come. It's something that we do every day. So I consider using tools like this mental hygiene. And the more you do it, the more resilient you become and the faster these techniques work.
Okay. And I've got a follow-up question to that, but I will reserve it for later, Nikki. But now you had mentioned that you work with high achievers. So these guys are definitely smart, they are driven for sure and successful, but also exhausted, which is what pharma founders go through. They tend to second guess not just their decisions, but their team's decisions as well, and overthink. So what mindset traps do high achievers fall into most often from your observation?
From what I see, there is on the surface, there's the overthinking and the second guessing. And then what I see that's beneath that is the self-doubt, the perfectionism, the people-pleasing, and even a low self-worth. And that's what drives that constantly questioning yourself and am I making the right decision? And, so, and if you could just repeat the question, because now I think it left my mind. But it's more of those deeper issues that are there that drive that second guessing and overthinking.
I think you did answer, but in case you left out something, so what mindset traps do these high achievers fall into most often?
Yeah, that's the trap, I would say. The perfectionism, the people pleasing, and self-doubt, honestly. A lot of it is just not self-doubt and not trusting yourself. And it starts with us, right? So I tell people, love yourself first, trust yourself first, then it makes it easier to trust others. A common thing I see with the people that I work with is micromanaging and not trusting their team members or, and it's like, well, why don't you start with you? And maybe when you say something, you do it and you stay in integrity, you start to build trust with yourself, then it makes it easier to trust others.
On the concept of micromanaging, Nikki, um, there is a saying that says that when you micromanage, you are not actually distrusting the people who work with you, but you distrust yourself
Yeah.
because you haven't empowered them. For some reason, you don't trust yourself to empower them. So that's where the problem is.
Absolutely. And I tell people start small. It's so easy to lose trust with ourselves. I mean, if you've ever said, "Oh, it could be something as simple as I'm going to go food shopping later." And then later comes and you're like, "Oh, I'll just do it tomorrow." And you put it off. It could be something as simple as that. So even just starting with, when I say I'm going to do something, if I say I'm going to make that phone call, I'm going to make it. If I say I'm going to go to bed by 11 p.m., I'm going to do it, because it's important that I stay in integrity with myself, because this is how I build trust. It's in those little daily decisions and actions that we take.
And Nikki, when a high achiever comes to you and they are in this state of paralysis, double as thinking twice, taking second guesses, and so on. What's the first mindset shift that you help them make?
Pause and take some deep breaths. Usually when that fight, flight, or freeze happens, we don't have access to thoughts. Things become mentally overloaded and confusion. And sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, pausing and even just taking 3 deep breaths, doing some 4 square breathing really helps to calm down the nervous system. And then they notice that they can say, okay, what's important here? And then listen. That's another hack, is to listen, ask the question, and then listen, because we have the answers inside of us. And sometimes we've got to just quiet down that noise and get still, trust ourselves. And that's where the trust piece comes in.
And I guess from what you're saying, patience is also required, right? I mean, you have to listen and wait, breathe, wait for the answer. It means you got to be patient for the answer to come.
Mm-hmm.
And don't stress it. Would that be correct?
Yes. And you know what? I have found that if I force an answer, it doesn't come. So what I'll do is I'll just stop what I'm doing and I'll go for a walk. Or I'm like, oh, I'm going to go make dinner. And it's interesting how often those answers come while washing dishes, while in the shower. It's like, pop, this comes right into your mind.
Yeah, and I think the science is kind of settled on this because there's a lot of research that shows that you cannot be working too long. So you need to take a break as you cook dinner, go for your run or go to the gym and dump all your stress and whatever else is knocking you out. Sorry. And
Oh, yeah.
so, Nikki, we come to this this concept about earlier you had mentioned about NLP. So you specialize in the subconscious reprogramming, including tapping. So I know for a lot of the people who are listening to this, because they are in the pharmaceutical industry, everything is evidence based, and I suspect that at the back of their mind, as they are hearing you, they are saying, "Oh, this is woo woo." So can you share how rewiring thought patterns in your clients creates faster and lasting results?
Yes. Well, there's neuroscience that supports a lot of this, and it's just understanding how the brain works. Neurons that fire together wire together. And when you have a thought and you repeat that thought over and over again, it goes from being a thought to a belief, and it just starts to run on autopilot. And most times we're not even conscious that we're having these thoughts. So what I do when I work with my clients, whether we're using neurolinguistic programming, NLP, or hypnotherapy, or any of these modalities, it's helping them to change the way they're thinking. So almost like, imagine deleting an old thought and installing a new one that's helps them to be more resourceful. I can share an example if that, makes it easier. Somebody could have the thought, I'm never chosen, as an example. And that thought came from when they were in high school and in gym class, and they were never chosen to be on the team because they weren't good at sports. And that I was never chosen starts to play out in their life. It plays out in never getting chosen to get married, as an example. So there's some real ramifications to these thoughts that are just kind of wired in and just kind of play in the background, and we don't even hear them. When somebody becomes aware of this pattern, this thought, we can take it and we can totally just delete it so that it's not even there. We can't just delete a thought. We have to replace it. So replace it with something like, I choose me, or I'm chosen for who I am, just as an example. And now that's the new thought that's just their default and plays in the background of their mind. And then imagine how life starts to change when they start to see that they are chosen. Maybe clients choose them. Maybe they get married. They get chosen to be a spouse. So that's just an example.
And to use the language of the people I work with, the pharma founders, it is like detox, what Nikki is saying, where you replace bad thoughts with good thoughts. It's like detox, where you get rid of the toxins and replace it with good nutrition. So it's the same process, but one's for the body, and what Nikki talks about is for the brain.
For the brain, yeah. And also I'll say, because you mentioned Maxwell Maltz earlier, people's self-image, how they see themselves, you can help them change that too. I worked with someone who was in the habit of biting her nails, and it got so bad that her cuticles were all red. She'd bite around the skin of her nails, and she realized that this became a problem, and she wanted to stop. She was getting hired in a new job, and it didn't look professional to have her nails look like that, being all dressed up. So we changed at the level of identity how she saw herself, and she said, I want to be impeccable. I want to be successful. So we changed the image of how she saw herself to this successful, impeccable person. And just by doing that, she stopped biting her nails. They healed, and you would never know that she was a nail biter.
And I totally agree with this, Nikki. I have also seen how the self-programming works, because earlier I mentioned to you, I have done work with sales teams, and body language is so important in sales and also in every other profession. And what I used to teach them is that when you feel a fear of meeting someone, you're intimidated by someone who you're going to meet, all you have to do is stand in front of your mirror, put your hands on your hips, and tell yourself, I am going to be brave when I meet so and so. Mention the name, a few times, and you will instantly see a transformation within yourself.
Yes, you just shared another hack. Change your physiology. Yes. Yes.
So that's how the body and the mind relate to each other. And I'm sure everybody who is listening to this understand those concepts. Psychosomatic is one area that everybody is familiar with.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So going back to these high pressure clients, whether in healthcare or Wall Street or some lawyer, how do you help these guys transform their self-doubt into confidence?
It is a process, and it starts with the layers of the mind. It's the faster way to create change is to start with those deeper layers of the mind. It's to start with the identity and how they see themselves, and then moving on to their values, having them know what are their deepest core values and start prioritizing the ones that are going to help them to move forward. And I think it's best if I just share an example to make this tangible for people. I had worked with a lawyer who was getting very angry. And this anger was becoming a problem in his relationships at home. And part of him believed that the anger was helping him to win cases in the courtroom. So he was a little apprehensive about letting it go. After helping him to reframe that, to realize that he could win cases without feeling the anger and holding it in his body, he had to start seeing himself differently, not as an angry person, but as an understanding person, as a patient person. You know, I am patient. I am compassionate. I am a good listener. You know, I give people the benefit of the doubt, and then looking to see what values can he prioritize. You know, he can prioritize trust, as an example, that he's going to trust himself, that he's going to trust others. He can prioritize being compassionate and understanding, and then moving down to the deeper layers, the beliefs, the potential that you believe that you have. And then you can focus on, you know, you don't have to focus on it. It just happens by just this trickle-down effect that behavior just changes. You know, when you first shift the identity and the values and the beliefs and the potential, people start noticing that they just show up differently. They just start behaving differently. So this lawyer that I was talking about, he just noticed that he started becoming more patient at home with his wife. He listened more when his adult kids were talking with him rather than just snapping as he used to. And then the outcome was just improved relationships with people at work that worked for him and his family at home.
A lot of the stuff you were mentioning, Nikki, sounds like affirmations.
Partly, yes, partly. The thing with affirmations, I'll say, is, you know, affirmations are great when they're true for you. So rather than just saying, let's just say somebody, you know, makes $100,000 a year, they can affirm, I am a millionaire. I am a millionaire. You know, all they want, but there's a disconnect there. So it's important to meet yourself where you are, affirm what is true for you and that you can stand behind. And then as you start to level up, then you can say that statement, I'm a millionaire.
Yeah. And in the story you just shared about the lawyer who was, you know, very agitated and under high pressure, in what kind of instances would you say hypnosis is required?
Hypnosis is a tool, like some of the other tools that we talked about. Hypnosis is, you can use it to quit smoking, as an example. You can use hypnosis for weight loss, for improving your sleep through the night. And I also like to use hypnosis on a personal growth level to help people to feel more motivated or to love themselves, to improve their self-worth. So hypnosis is a great tool to help to get that conscious mind, the gatekeeper, just kind of out of the way, and then install positive suggestions for the subconscious mind, which is our goal getter. So it is a powerful tool, and I find that it's great to have a nice toolkit that you can use, and you can work with the subconscious mind with hypnosis, and then you can work with both the conscious and subconscious as a team using NLP, which works with both.
And what you're saying, Nikki, is that start off with NLP, which is using language to transform yourself, and if needed, hypnosis. Would that be correct?
Well, it depends. So what I do is whenever I had a conversation today with someone who wants to get rid of a fear, and, you know, she was saying, oh, you know, I could easily go into a trance. And I said, well, I actually wouldn't use hypnosis for this. I would use a different technique. So it just depends on what the problem is. And that's how I decide, you know, is hypnosis the best tool for this? Maybe we can just use it, you know, tapping or some technique from NLP. I see them as tools. And, you know, it's just focusing on what's the result that the person wants. And then there's many different ways that we can get there. I tend to use hypnotherapy for improving sleep. for quitting smoking. I will use it for weight loss, but I don't just use hypnotherapy for weight loss. I use a combination of things. And a lot of this is not one and done. Like we're going to just do one session and we're just going to, resolve a problem completely. Sometimes we've got to come at it in different ways. And honestly, James, sometimes just having a conversation with someone and telling a story, it's like a light, just the switch flips. And, I was, some woman came to me because she was having a fear of bed bugs. And I didn't even work with her. We were just on the discovery call and I'm just talking and I don't even remember what I said. But I did some talking, I told some stories, and then she moved forward. She bought 2 sessions. We got on our first session, and she said to me, "What did you do to me?" I said, "What do you mean, what did I do?" She goes, "Well, I can't do the problem anymore. I saw a bug outside, and my body went like it didn't do what it normally did." So it was like something in her mind just changed on that very first conversation. So I share that because you just never know, what's going to make that change for someone. A lot of it comes down to the person being ready and willing and wanting to make that change. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense, Nikki, and thank you very much. That was, for those who are listening and those who are not counting, that was hack number 3 million or something, so, where just engaging your people. So pharma founders, pharma leaders, as a leadership coach myself, this is the power of, speaking to your people, coaching them, even if you're not doing coaching the right way, but just engaging them, as Nikki said, getting them to talk will set off certain processes in their mind and get them to do or change their behavior. Because that's what we're all looking for, change of behavior.
Yes, we want to change our behavior. And I say, don't start with behavior. Start with how you see yourself.
So, Nikki, let's have a look at real case, scenarios or case studies. Your clients report clearer decisions, stronger relationships, and more energy. So, could you share a success story that really illustrates these outcomes?
Yes. Well, one client that I was working with, she came to me for multiple challenges. She wanted to sleep better. She wanted to lose some weight. She wanted to improve her communication at home with her husband and with her staff at work. And through our work together, we got to the real root of things, which was how she saw herself, which was not good enough. And when we started working on her, she started to notice that all these changes started happening. There was a point where she felt that her husband didn't value what she had to say. He would go ahead and make important family decisions without her. And when she started seeing her own value and knowing that she's good enough as is, her husband started behaving differently. He started asking for her opinion. And so the relationship improved with her husband. She told me that there was a time when they were talking about getting a divorce when the kids were done with school. And she said, I'd made my way back to my husband. Our relationship was like it was in the beginning when we first got married. So her relationship improved with her husband. She had more energy, started exercising more and consistently and started dropping some weight. She improved the dynamics at work with her staff. So it was just this all around change. And it began with her.
And there you go. That's another hack. I think all problems around us probably start with us. Instead of blaming someone else, we are
Yes.
culprit.
What is it when we point at someone, we have 3 fingers pointing back at ourselves? Yeah. Yeah.
Remarkable, Nikki. I think this basically, what we have discussed up to here, it reveals a lot about us, the role we play, for the problems that we face, for the problems as the last case, the problems at home, at work, with your partner, with the people you work with. And for all those who are listening, so far, Nikki has shared so many success stories. And you may be thinking, oh, very well, these are all, non-quantifiable, subjective. So, Nikki, this is the opportunity that you have to give a measurable result that you're most proud of, either for yourself or for your clients. So, fire
Okay.
with whatever statistics that you have.
All right. So I'm going to give one that's quantifiable with money. And I never promise that clients are going to make more money, but this is a story of a guy, of a lawyer, another lawyer, who he did my manifest money challenge. And it was just this, 5-day challenge. And he landed a $10,000 client in those 7 days. So that's the quantifiable $10,000 in 7 days. I don't promise that at all. It just so happened for him. One of my favorites, though, a favorite client win, was this guy who retired from teaching as an art teacher, and he wanted to do something in his second act, and he wanted to sell his paintings. He just loved painting, but he lacked the confidence and thought, who would pay all this money for my artwork? And helping him to see that what he put on the canvas was an expression of who he is. There's no dollar amount on that. So he invited me to an art expo, and it was local. So I went, and he pulled me to the side, and he said, 25 of these, I have 25 pieces of my art at this expo. He said, 5 of them are here because of you. I never would have showed them to the public because I would have been embarrassed, but now I know that they are valuable. And he ended up selling 6 of those paintings. So that's the quantifiable. Mm-hmm.
Remarkable. And how long did it take you to convince him to?
Oh, there's no convincing.
Okay. Right.
I helped him to change the way he sees himself.
Okay.
To see that he does have something of value to give. And we worked together at that point for 3 months.
Okay.
He has stayed with me just for maintenance. And some people do that. It's like we do life. Things come up all the time. It's nice just to have, just that once a month kind of thing where it's like, okay, let me share what's went well in my life. Let me share where I might have some hangups and, let's do a little cleanup. But that was 3 months that he was able to see that his work was valuable and put a high ticket on it and sell those 6 paintings.
Yeah, and I must admit there was a boo-boo on my part, Nikki, by asking you how long it took you to convince him. Because as a coach, I should not have used that word because we don't convince anybody. We get them to realize and convince themselves on what they need to do.
I might have done some influence, right? I might have influenced him with my language, right? But ultimately, it's helping the person to decide for themselves. Yeah.
And looking forward, Nikki, what's the next chapter for you, if there is one, another pivot, whether it's in coaching, speaking, or writing?
Yes. Well, there's always a next chapter for as long as I've got air in my lungs. Something I'm excited. Well, there's a couple of things I'm excited about. I'm still doing coaching and speaking. I am now joining a training team where I'm going to be certifying others who want to become practitioners of NLP and hypnotherapy. So that's something that I will be doing in addition to coaching. And it's kind of going back to my teaching roots where I get to facilitate and guide. And that feels really exciting because it's just bringing more practitioners into the world that can do this work and help transform more lives.
And would that apply to, let's say, businesses and corporations? Where
Yes,
you train, a team of people to get this done in their organization?
absolutely. It applies to salespeople, anybody who can improve their communication and influence people ethically would benefit from learning NLP. Mm-hmm.
And when you do NLP work, do you do it one-on-one or with teams as well?
You can do both. When I work with my clients, I work with them privately one-on-one, but I have run workshops or I've seen other people do it for corporations where you can teach as a group.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one final tip to people who are watching. If someone is, on viewing this podcast and they are stuck in self-doubt, and I normally find this an irony, and Nikki, you brought it up earlier as well. Entrepreneurs, business owners normally have a lot of self-confidence, and therefore they leave an employment and start off in this risky world known as entrepreneurship. Uh, and then they end up in self-doubt. So
Uh-huh.
what's one immediate practice that they can try to start shifting their mindset?
The immediate practice is to lean into curiosity. Just become curious about everything, even those self-doubts, because I did that. I made the leap. I left the job, feeling really confident that, oh, all is going to work out. And then some months went by and I thought, oh no, what have I done? Did I make the wrong decision? And doubts came up. So the saying that we've got to lean into curiosity, the next step is to turn statements into questions. That's the tip that I would offer. So anytime you find yourself telling yourself something that's a dead-end statement and does not align you with the outcome you want, turn it into a question.
I like that last part, Nikki, because it just reminded me of something else that I teach to leaders, in my coaching program or this sales program. Always ask questions. And if you make a statement, just throw in any of the 7W words and it will be converted into a question.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, exactly. Somebody could say to themselves, I don't think I have what it takes. What would it look like if I did? And that's using one of those 5W questions.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Nikki, as we end, what is the most important old rule that you broke that you would probably advise or not advise, but ask others to consider breaking?
Oh, yes. So the rule that I finally broke, this is a play on words, is majority rules. The majority, and I'm going back to high school, the majority of the kids that in my grade said that with me, that I was not good enough. And I believed in the majority rules, and I took that into my adult life. So the rule is you have to just ask yourself. Doesn't matter what society says, doesn't matter what the majority says. Only you know what is true and good for you. So don't listen to the majority. Tune in and listen to yourself. And when something feels good, you follow that. Then you know that perhaps you're on the right path.
Yeah, you do you, right?
Exactly. Do you and feel good about it.
I feel good about it. Yes, exactly. And Nikki, where can anyone interested get your book?
It's on Amazon, or they can go to my website and it'll take them right to Amazon. Yeah, the Calm Method is available on Amazon. Mm-hmm.
And if people want to work with you, find out more, Nikki, how can they reach you?
They can go to my website, which is my name, nikkigangemi.com, and they can find some resources to get them started, like a complimentary Calm Method guide that they can get started on. And there's all different paths that they can take from, book to private coaching with me. So I would say visit my website. I'm also all over social media. They can connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and my YouTube channel.
Wonderful, Nikki. And I appreciate it that you have spent time with us, exposing or revealing all the secrets behind how we can, shift our mindset. It's not impossible. It can be done. Put our mind to it.
Yes.
And for all those of you who are interested, in the description box below, I've put up Nikki's link to her Amazon book, her website, as well as her LinkedIn profile. So reach out to her through any of these means, and if you want to work with her. And for all those of you who are here for the very first time, please remember to subscribe, click the bell icon, and select all notifications so that all future videos like these that I publish, you will be notified. And thank you very much, and I'll see you at the next podcast. Bye-bye.